And I haven't forgotten, I owe you guys the story of Zaylen's bio dad. So, but I have to do that when he's not around because he doesn't know the story and we're not quite ready to talk about it yet. But I promise you, it's coming. All the juicy details. If you have questions about it, I'll put a little question box here. Ask me questions and I will answer them when I go into our whole little spiel thing. Nothing is off limits. Now's the time. Don't be embarrassed. Ask me all the questions you want to know about my life because I know you guys want to know. I'm not offended by anything. I know that it's an interesting story, so just pop them here and I'll answer them. Yes, but I'm actually going to answer some of the questions that I got first, and then I'll go into the full story. Zaylen has met him one time. When he was about 9 months old, and it was about 3 days in a row, a couple of times, but never since then. They have also talked on the phone a few times, but Zaylen doesn't know who he is to him, or his name even. So it was more like just talking to one of mommy's friends, not in any fatherly capacity. He did not actively give up custody, but he does not have custody either. So he's not on the birth certificate. He has no rights. There's no legal binding. And a couple of you guys have asked that question. It's really just Zaylen was born in Georgia, and I did not put him on the birth certificate. So there's nothing to sign away because he's got no rights. So because he has no rights and he's not on the birth certificate, I handle 100% of the legal and the medical matters. Literally, he has no say whatsoever. If he wanted to have say, he would have to take me to court to get put on the birth certificate. Yes. Short answer, yes. I think he's very attractive, and Zaylen does look a lot like him. That really depends on who you ask, whether you think Zaylen looks like him or not. But I think he does, and yes, I think he's attractive. Okay, so now for the story itself. I met Zaylen's bio dad when I was 20 years old. We met at a bar, and we fell in love. I was head over heels, obsessed, in love. We moved in together, I want to say like a month after we started dating on our first. Okay, let's backtrack here. Too much information too fast. Okay. We met at a bar and I was totally wasted, and he drove me home because my friend who I went to the bar with, she left me and I had no way to get home, and this was before the days of Uber. So he drove me home. That was the end of it. He didn't come inside. We were good. So, then he obviously had my number and I had his number, and he kept trying to ask me out on a date. And I was the type of girl, fancy pants, that I don't date guys that I meet at the bar. I was drunk, so I didn't know I really couldn't remember what he looked like. I know we danced, we had a good time, he drove me home, he was nice, but I wasn't going to go out on a date with him. But he was very persistent, and he sent me a picture, and he said, I just want to let you know, this is the last time I'm going to reach out. I think you're interested. I'd love to take you out on a date, but if you don't want to, then that's fine. I'm just not going to talk to you anymore. And I kind of got all like googly-eyed over his picture and was like, no, yeah, yes, I want to go on a date with you. And so we went on a date. And after our first date, it took about 3 dates before he would finally come. He'd walk me to the door or whatever, and it took about 3 or 4 dates before he would finally came inside. And then the first time he came into my house, he didn't leave for a week. So we definitely started shacking up after that. So after about a month of dating, he officially moved in, and we lived together, we got a cat together, and it was kind of like great love story, but it didn't last all that long. Shortly after that, we both graduated from school, and we were planning to move to Atlanta together. So I had no idea what I was going to do with my life or anything. Had a college degree. His family lived in Atlanta, and so the plan was that we were going to just move there. There were more job opportunities, but before we moved, we had some issues. There started to be a lot of jealousy, a lot of fighting, and we ended up breaking up. So this is only like 4 months after we started dating. And I moved to Atlanta anyways. He also was moving to Atlanta. I ended up moving into an apartment across the street from his parents' house. I looked like straight up stage 5 clinger stalker, like bad. I did not know they lived across the street until after I got the apartment. So that wasn't good. Definitely not good. But yeah, it was just that's the story of how we met and fell in love, whatever. We lived together on and off for 5 years. We lived together on and off. And we were in love, but it was bad. We fought all the time. He always thought I was cheating on him. I never once cheated, guys. Never stepped out. He always called me a flirt. He always thought I was like hitting on his brother-in-law who was married to his sister. I mean, like, there was just a lot of jealousy issues, a lot of issues, and it grew increasingly bad. So our fights became really bad fights. Our fights became physical fights. Our fights were just, knock down, drag out between the two of us. I'm not saying that I'm any, just 100% complicit in this. Like, it was not good. But we were together, and we were figuring it out, and I would have married him. And his kind of like big MO was always just moving out of the apartment without telling me, and then going dark for like 2 or 3 weeks, and then coming back. And so it'd be like I'd come home and all of his stuff out of his side of the closet would just be gone. All of his stuff would be packed up. I'd come home from work, and the house was just empty, halfway empty, all of his stuff gone. And then he wouldn't talk to me and wouldn't answer calls or text messages for like 2 or 3 weeks. And then all of a sudden he would come back around, and we'd kind of start this cycle all over again. So it was really toxic, really bad. But I would have married him. I would have, because I was massively in love. Infatuated, I think, is more of the word. But, our good times were really, really good. We had this awesome high and this terrible low. So, I mean, it was a toxic relationship, definition of toxic. But that was kind of his MO, he'd just disappear for weeks on end. And the story of how I got pregnant is actually a crazy one too, because he was in Florida for the whole month prior to, and then was home for 1 day, and I went off to Italy literally the next day and was gone for 3 weeks, and then found out on the return trip back that I was pregnant. Or I found out the day I got back from Italy that I was pregnant, and it was like, he didn't buy that I was pregnant with his child, because the timing of it was off. Like, how could he have been the father of the child? He was only there for 1 day, and he was out the whole month. And so his whole story to date, even now, is that Zaylin is not his, even though we have a DNA test. And so that started about 3 months after I got pregnant. He moved out again. And this time for good. He never moved back in. And when I was about 6 months pregnant, then we stopped communicating. And part of it was because I told him that he couldn't come to the hospital. He couldn't be there for the delivery, because the delivery was about me and my health. And I have really high anxiety, and I didn't want him there. But he takes that to mean that I had somebody else at the hospital, like another man at the hospital with me. And so he was never put on the birth certificate. That was intentional because I did not want him to have rights. He's a spiteful person, and so I just knew that he was going to just fight me tooth and nail for little things that weren't really for the best interest of Zaylin. And when Zaylin was 9 days old, I got a letter in the mail. He had not called me, talked to me, nothing at all, and didn't ask to see Zaylin. And I got a letter in the mail that said that he was filing for 50% custody of my newborn child that he had never even met before. And so that was kind of like the start, the end of the spiral down. Like that was really the solidifying the end of our civil relationship going forward. We had no positive relationship after that. Everything kind of took a turn because he was trying to take my baby from me, and I still feel like that is the only reason why he filed, was to just make me feel that way. And so at first I refused to do the DNA test because I really felt like I felt a lot of pride about the fact that I had never cheated on him, and I was like, this is ridiculous. I have been faithful for 5-6 years, and I'm not going to let you tell me this child who is a spitting image of you is not yours and make me, like, just belittle me down to it. So out of pride, I did not do the DNA test for a long time. We didn't do the DNA test until October of 2017, right before I got pregnant with Xenia. That's when we did the DNA test. And of course it came back 99.9999999% positive. He is the father. But he still doesn't even believe that. He says that I bribed and paid off the DNA company. Because I'm just loaded, guys. Single mom with 2 kids. I've just got so much money to throw and bribe companies. And in the state of Georgia, the primary parent has to be the one to file for custody and child support mainly. And so I just let that one go. I didn't want to deal with it. I didn't want his money. He was really working dead-end jobs, wasn't going to really benefit me in any way to have him financially contributing to Zaylin's life, because it wouldn't have made any difference at all. And, I still feel like that was the best decision, that I did not go through with it from that perspective. And it wasn't until Zaylin was 9 months old and he had a new girlfriend who probably, told him that he should make an effort. And so he reached out and wanted to meet Zaylin. And so that day, I drove 45 minutes across Atlanta to go meet up in like a park or whatever so that he could meet Zaylin. He met him and was like really, really great with him and wanted to spend time with him, was kind of like stepping up and wanted to be involved. And he came around it was like 3 or 4 days. He came every day and they hung out or whatever. We all hung out, and he was involved. And then he kind of again pushed that custody thing on me, and that really just set me over the edge. I got mama bear protective. This child is 9 months old. You're not going to come in and say that now you want custody. Like, you haven't been around. Prove to me first that you're going to be around, and then we can talk about time sharing, and then we can talk about overnights. But don't just come at me and say that you want 50% custody of a child you don't know. And so I got protective, and that was the end. And then I found out he moved to Florida, and the only reason I was staying in Atlanta was to kind of keep the door open. And so I packed up and moved back to Sarasota 2.5 years ago. And I still talk to him every once in a while, keep the door open, but that's it. Yeah, that's pretty much the story. Like I said, I keep the communication lines open. Right now I'm currently blocked for, probably because he's got a girlfriend. I don't know. Seriously, like I don't control what he does, but I have his name, his number. I know what city he's living in, and I do try to keep that information just in case Zaylin ever wants to know. If he asks questions, I just want to have some kind of an answer for him. I think he's still young, but I don't want to cut ties and then 10 years down the road I've got no information to give him. I just don't think that's fair to Zaylin, and so I keep the lines of communication open. And honestly, if he wanted to step up and be involved, I would let him, but I don't think that he does. I think he likes to have control, and I don't let him have that, and so he's got no reason to come around, because every time I kind of like say, you're crossing a line, boundaries are crossed, whatever, he blocks me. So yeah, I'll put another question box here. I think that I've answered all of your questions, but if you have any more, if I kind of skipped over some details that you want more of, pop them here, and then I'll just answer those questions. We'll go from there.